All right, so we are now in phase one of why and part two, of course, of the video series. So, first thing, welcome back. And number two is we're going to start with why. Now, this is an interesting conundrum for me. Here's why. Like, as I told you before, background psychology, whatever. Whenever I've tried this exercise with people, it's interesting to see the amount of friction that it causes. And of course, I get the logical reasons why. It's just the emotional reasons that are always interesting to me. Now, if you are going to have that reaction here, that is fine. As I mentioned to you before in the video prior to this, because of the way that I've structured this, you don't have to worry about anyone knowing, seeing, nothing. Okay, this is literally work at your own pace. Now, the reason that why is so important, and I'm sure you've heard this before, either on my IG, YouTube videos, whatever. The thing is that your brain is a lot bigger and faster than you realize. There's a fallacy that is regurgitated over and over and over and over that, oh, we only access 10% of our brain. That's not entirely true because of how our brains work. You can actually, one, wipe data, right? And build what's called I'm gonna, I guess, speak of it in a way that anyone can just not get bored. The way that our brains work, right? I want you to imagine a computer. Now, if you leave your computer on for hours and days, it starts to get a little slow, right? And you have tabs open and yada yada. And then what happens after, like, I don't know, a week of it being on, right? You have all these tabs open. You have like 40 of these, and you're watching Netflix on another and yada yada. What you eventually have to shut it down. Okay, and when you shut it down and refresh, you'll notice, and you update some software. Oh my God, it's running better than before, right? The reason that is because the way that our brain is built, it's not necessarily that we only access 10% of it. It's that we're only using 10% of it, so to speak. And the reason I mention that is, again, is because your brain is actually bigger and faster than you realize. Getting good sleep is so important. And I actually I'll admit, I make fun. I poke fun. I talk shit with the, whole team no sleep vibe, or wave. Excuse me. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're just leaving your computer on 4 days with all these tabs open. Now, what does that mean in terms of this? That means it's because our brains are a lot more powerful than a lot of people actually want to give themselves credit for. I like to say that they're like heat-seeking missiles. Okay, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. RAS. Think of something, as we're watching this, all right? I want you to not think of the color purple. Odds are, you just thought of the color purple. There's another exercise, it's a very old one. It's like, I don't want you to think of a purple elephant. So close your eyes and do not think of a purple elephant. Chances are you have, because that's how our brains work. So what does that all mean? Your emotions are controlled, right? And your emotions are very powerful because, I remember I told you our brains, well, our emotions are literally run by our brains. They're controlled by one of two things, circumstances or character. Okay? So, of course, focusing on developing your character, your circumstances won't matter. As I said to you before, I love working with people that are looking to learn the rules to break them. Figuring out how stuff works. And by the way, if I'm boring you by now, I apologize, but I thank you for still coming and giving this the time of day. So, here's why I said they're like, kind of like heat-seeking missiles. Clarity is power. And an example of this is, I'm pretty sure you've heard that example of a mother, right? Her child is in distress. All of a sudden, she's Superwoman. She can lift the car, and there's countless stories like this. Reason being is because emotion driven, right? It's powerful. It's like NOS, nitrous oxide. It's like spinach with Popeye. It just gives you this uncanny ability to get shit done. And in fact, it's where the quote will come from. It's like, a strong enough why, anyhow is possible. And as I said to you before, is again, emotion is so powerful. In fact, I technically am a marketer in terms of how I work with companies within companies, but I really just want to address that because what today is considered marketing and what today I keep noticing and meeting people that tell me they're marketers. They're actually not. They're just advertisers. Not everyone, of course, but the majority is because this is really silly, almost childlike notion that as a marketer, I have to get your attention and just convince you that this is the best thing since sliced bread. That's a very dangerous thing because, you know, I don't know about you, right? But if I buy something, I don't want to feel icky afterwards. I don't want to feel like, what the hell did I just spend on? You know, so and how that translates into this is because everything rhymes. And we're going to see a lot of things that are repeated because the past, right? The past is built on people and people are built on patterns. Okay? So once we trigger and find a why, everything else becomes so amazingly easy. And I almost feel it's unfair to say it like that, but the logic is still there. As I mentioned to you before, and sharing with you a little bit about my background, where I'm coming from is, you know, being in the military is not the easiest thing. It's not the most fun thing, but it's really awesome to have now, as I'm older, say, look, I experienced this. I thought I was going to lose my freaking mind. You know, it's really mind-boggling to sit there carrying a 90-pound rucksack, which is like these big book bags we carry, and running through a bunch of this hard labor, and looking down on my hands, and it's just seeing my gloves just soaked in blood because just hours before that, as I'm like holding onto dear life on a rope, I skinned my palms, right? So no, barely any skin. Skin being ripped off from my hands. I'm looking at this. Let's face it, most people see that freak the fuck out, right? But when you have adrenaline pumping, when your motivation is get out, get out, get out, you see that it's like, okay, cool, and you just keep going. That's what I'm talking about. And I don't mean to trivialize and say, look, you got to go do stupid shit like that. What I'm saying is that's how our brains work. So an example of this in terms of how I look to work alongside you is because at the end of the day, you know, when you take someone that has a lot of potential and a lot of talent, because potential is cool, but the talent that they can then use critical thinking to really get somewhere. Oh man, I can't wait to share with you some of the people that I've worked with, but it's just amazing because they're sitting there like, oh, I'm okay, you know, this whole thing, and then you see what they're able to accomplish, and it just blows you away. And frankly, that's why I'm so excited about this stuff. And if I sound too excited to you right now, whoops, but this will very likely be you in a very short amount of time. And as I was mentioning to you before, right, how our brains work, there's something called the reticular activating system, right? And without boring you, because I realize when I geek out, nerd out about this, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, sure, Chinese. It all sounds like Mandarin to me. Um, it's like I said to you before, do not think of a purple elephant and all of a sudden you do. Or you, I don't know, you like a new pair of shoes or you like a new car. You start to see that car everywhere. Well, that's why, because the way that our brains work is they store data and they give certain data more importance, right? So if you load that data with an emotion, it's supercharged. And guess what happens to the stuff that's not really that you don't really attach an emotion to? Well, the way that our brains work, if you don't attach an emotion to, what ends up happening is it's kind of like, for me, it's cool. I apologize if it's not for you, but anywho, it attaches a protein to it, and your body, your brain, literally tells it, okay, delete that one later because it's not important. Now, how do our brains decide what's important? Based on the emotion. So a little bit of what I've put together for you here is based on the Myers-Briggs. And if you've never taken the Myers-Briggs test, it's a personality test. I'm actually going to be sharing the link with you so that you can go and take it because it's very important. If you know what your personality type is, it will also help you have a very, very grand scope of what the hell is going on, some trouble areas that you can also tackle on your own. I'm also including a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Some of you are familiar with this, but I like to put a little spin on it, as you see up here, actually. A why exercise and a living my best life exercise. And this is based on, again, science, not just hoopla and whatever. So, starting with why. And I put together this exercise, even though some are familiar with it, I put it together in this format, this way, because I wanted to make it easier. Um, Mostly because the way, again, how you prioritize data is, it's subjective, it is, but it also, because of the subjectivity and whatever position you are right now in life, it will affect it. So, first things first, before we start, I want you to unlearn, all right? And a lot of this you're going to notice is a lot of peeling the layers back and unlearning a lot of the bullshit that you're hearing. And let's dial back to zero, because frankly, you can. You really can. When I trained soldiers in the military, it's the same thing. I would take a bright-eyed, wide private from Wisconsin, and I'd tear his ass down, and then guess what? Build his ass back up. And these people were unstoppable afterwards. So it's a lot of exploring of why do you do what you do. And by the way, if by now you haven't caught on to why this is being incorporated into the very beginning, and of course you being, the CEO, the leader, the chief executive, whatever, it's because this is your foundation. Okay, plenty of people can savor some cash and savor that little taste of success and very quickly fall into depressions. You see it all the time. People that are rich and famous killing themselves. People that have tons of this, yearning for that. And of course, I don't want to bore you to death, so I actually want to move along. So for this exercise, if you bullshit me, you only bullshit yourself. The more forthcoming you are, and you're going to notice this theme, by the way, the more you bullshit me, you're only bullshitting yourself. So let's get to it. Start with why, right? So this is what I put together for you guys and gals. And I want you to just take your time. We're actually going to breeze right through this. I actually already filled out some of the stuff. So here is an example of how you would start, right? And by the way, I actually put this here so you can see. Oh, here it is. Couldn't even see it. So a little bit of what we're doing is called intrinsic motivation. Now, I said to you before, motivation being a problem. Oh, the internet connection just got weird. Anywho, internet. Oh, okay, well, let's keep moving along. Anywho, intrinsic motivation is something that's very important. And the reason it's so important is because of how motivation doesn't always stick around. It doesn't always stick around because it's a feeling. And if you don't place a strong enough emotion to it, here's where we end up. So here's an example of an exercise. Someone that I recently did this with. So they said, hey, my goal is I want to make an extra 20K a year. Okay, then I said, why? Of course, they're like, well, I want to make more money. Okay, cool. What are you going to do with that money? So they're like, this is the answer. So I can pay my debts and bills and not struggle so much. Okay, well, we all have debts. We all have bills. Shit happens, right? The struggle part was interesting. So I said, cool. Okay, why? Why do you want to pay your debts and bills? And I know that sounds like a stupid question, but the thing is, like, let's just roll with it here. Why do you not want to struggle so much? What would come from it if once you paid your debts and bills, they're all paid, right? Are you still struggling? Then what? So their response was, so I can live better and feel more confident. Okay, cool. So I can live better. That's subjective. We're about to explore what you consider living better. Feeling more confident. Okay, what would living again with the why? What would living better do for your confidence? Why do you want to be more confident? So then they proceeded to. So of course, this is after a lot of me asking the same question in like 50 different ways. This is also why I said to you, you got to do this on your own. Their response was, so I can be more happy with myself. Okay, I took out some of the words here because they're like, fucking, I want to be more happy with myself and do things I'm capable of. They felt like they were just sitting on so much potential that they were not realizing, and they were frustrated. And I get that. So this is why I love this exercise, because now as you're sitting here, you're realizing, okay, make more money, because we all say that, right? Why do you want to make more money? So you can keep going, by the way. I wrote it out here for you, but the cool thing about this is this person, when we did this exercise, when it came down to so I can be more happy with myself and do things I'm capable of, what we ended up surmising, really, with their why, right? It literally came down to identifying their happiness. That was actually the next step that we got to, because after that, they were just like, oh, that's it. Was identifying what you consider happiness, right? Identifying what you would need, which actually we're going to be getting into a little bit here, where it says living my best life. So do not worry if you don't actually fully fill this out, because you're going to need this one to answer some questions here. And so, and then knowing what I'm capable of, that's where it comes into when it comes time for your SWOT analysis. Okay, so as long as you get here, something like this, just bare, just really fucking raw, then you're on the right course. Okay, it could literally be like, I want to be happy, I want to feel more confident, because I grew up with low self-esteem. All right, cool. Go from there. So again, you're going to be getting a copy of this, and you can go ahead and fill it out. And do not worry, you can add more lines if you need to, until you ultimately land on the most raw emotion. And that's what we're going for. You got to get raw, got to break yourself down to build yourself back up. Roger that. Cool. So I will catch you in the next video.